Hello there and welcome back to another video. In today's video, I've got this old HP ProDesk 400G4 SFF Office PC that I'm planning to turn into an inexpensive screen capturing rig for my YouTube videos. When I recently made my video on the RTX 2080 and whether or not it's a sensible card to purchase in 2025, I was reminded of how hateful to use my current screen capture setup is. The benchmarking for the system was supposed to take maybe 1.5 hours at most, and due to several issues, one of the bigger ones being the recording system, it ended up taking over 4 hours. So I'm building a new rig, but before I get into the details of the new one, I have to make sure that this system is working properly. Because I bought it as 4 parts are not working, as those systems are always where the super good deals are at. I paid just over $40 for this system, with it being listed as untested and as is, so let's see if it works and what's installed in it. I do know that this system should have a 7th generation Intel Core i5 installed, with 8GB of DDR4 RAM and 500GB of storage, but I don't know if that's an SSD or a hard drive. So I plugged the system into my test setup and powered it on. Thankfully for me, the system booted right up, but instead of booting into the BIOS like I had probably expected it to, it booted into a Windows installation that automatically unlocked because there was no password set. Confused, I quickly realized that this was not just a Windows install set up for the system's new buyer, and instead it was the previous owner's installation, personal documents, photos, and all. After realizing this, I closed out of File Explorer, and before shutting the system down to sanitize this drive, I did take an opportunity to check Task Manager to see that we did, in fact, have a Core i5-7500, 8GB of RAM, and a 500GB SSD, so pretty solid for $40. But what absolutely wasn't solid was that the liquidation seller that I bought this system from did not take care of the data on this drive. This is an incredibly dangerous thing for people who don't understand how to take care of their personal data when replacing a computer, and who rely on the people who will resell their computer to securely wipe it for them. This computer quite literally had a photo of its previous owner's driver's license stored on the desktop, which again took no password to access, and if the system had ended up in the wrong hands, it's incredibly likely that this person could have become a victim of identity theft. Now, I have no intention of doing anything malicious with this data, and honestly feel really uncomfortable having a drive with this stuff on it in my possession, so the first thing that I'm going to do is to get all of that data destroyed. And I'll also show you how you can do this if you find yourself in a similar position. So I took the system apart and removed the 512GB silicon power SATA SSD that it had installed in it, and then plugged it into another computer with a USB to SATA adapter. I then used the disk part command to clean the drive. However, this does not securely remove all of the data from the disk, it only destroys the partitions. With semi-advanced data recovery software, the data can still be recovered, so we need to take some more steps. The next thing that I did was format the drive, and when I formatted the drive, I had to ensure that I unticked the option for quick format, as a quick format basically only removes the information of where the files are and doesn't delete the actual data, so again, they can still be forensically recovered. Deselecting this option will perform a full format, which overwrites the entire partition, which in our case is the whole disk, and therefore, the data will be securely erased from the drive. After allowing the full format a long while to complete, as it has to overwrite the whole disk, I felt okay about having this SSD in my house once again and reinstalled it into the PC. And so now, it's time to pull out my old capture setup and get the new one built up and installed, which I am super excited to do. This little Lenovo PC that sits in the corner of my filming setup is my current HDMI capture and disk drive wiping machine, and it's got some problems to do with the HDMI capture. I'm using this U-Green capture card with it, which isn't a bad capture card, but I can never get exceptional video quality out of it, and it randomly does some weird glitchy things that take a full system reboot to fix most of the time. All of that is to say that I want something with more reliable video capture quality, and of course, more reliable overall functionality as well. When recording footage for the 2080 video recently, I ended up not realizing that the recording had glitched at a certain point, and I ended up with a ton of ruined footage because of that. Additionally, when recording that video, I discovered that for the bitrate I needed to encode the footage at for the video to not look like it was recorded using a potato, the i5-6500T and its integrated graphics in this mini PC were severely underpowered. I wanted to encode at 60 megabit per second to ensure good quality. However, I noticed that this system wasn't able to put out anywhere close to that. I record directly to a network location and saw that this system was exporting a mere 30 to 40 megabit per second of the 60 that I wanted. Thankfully, that still looked okay enough for the video, but I want my encoders to not be overloaded, and I also didn't appreciate the fan in the system screaming the whole time that it was recording. Sadly, the system also has no upgrade options for a dedicated GPU to encode video, and so this computer just has to go. I would have liked to get a faster one of these mini PCs, or one of the models that does have a PCI Express slot because I like the form factor, but these systems were annoyingly expensive, and I'd still have to be using that Ugreen capture card, which can sometimes be unreliable. So here's the plan. I'm going to replace the old Lenovo system with this HP ProDesk. Although the CPU isn't that different, this HP system has both a PCI Express X4 slot and a PCI Express X16 slot, meaning that it has more than enough expandability to install a dedicated GPU that will handle all of the video encoding, meaning that the CPU will also have way fewer responsibilities and therefore shouldn't be a bottleneck anymore. I went over to eBay once again and picked up a used Quadro P620 card for $35 to perform this task. This isn't the most powerful card I could have gotten, but for 1080p 60 FPS encoded at 60 megabits per second in H.265, this should be more than capable of doing the job. If you have higher requirements and are building a system like this, there's always the Quadro P1000, which is the same single slot, low profile form factor, and is a significantly more powerful card. What I also picked up while on eBay was this used Elgato HD60 Pro PCI Express capture card for about $100. I tried to get a way better deal on it, but the seller canceled their order on me, and so I ended up paying a little more than I might have wanted to for this card, but it's alright. This will fit perfectly into the PCI Express X4 slot in this system, and I trust that this card from Elgato will have great video capture quality and reliable functionality. Plus, I won't have to worry about any possible weirdness caused by the card being connected over USB. So let's get this system configured, and then let's install these cards. The first thing that I did was boot the system up without the Quadro installed so that I could go into the BIOS and ensure that the system's video output would be set to the onboard graphics as opposed to the Quadro. This is because I don't want to use the Quadro for any display outputs on the system and just want it to be the dedicated encoder card. The Intel UHD graphics will take care of this PC's video output just fine. Sadly though, I couldn't find this setting in the BIOS and became worried that it only appeared when a dedicated card was installed. So I installed the Quadro card and attempted to boot into the BIOS with my video cables still plugged into the motherboard, but as I kind of expected, I didn't get any output because it was all being sent out of the Quadro card. This card only has mini DisplayPort outputs on it, which I don't have a cable or adapter for, and I don't want to buy one just to change the BIOS setting and then never use it again. What I did instead was grab this other video card I had laying around with two regular DisplayPort outputs that I could use, and I installed it instead of the Quadro. Then I booted into the BIOS where the video adapter settings showed up now, and then I changed it to use the onboard video, shut down the system, reinstalled the Quadro, and was up and running exactly how I wanted to be, with the system's video being displayed out of the iGPU, but the Quadro being installed to handle video encoding. With the GPU situation sorted out, it's now onto the Elgato capture card, which can just slot into the system like this, but oh, that's gonna be an issue actually. I anticipated this when purchasing the card, but instead of trying to find a low profile bracket for it, I opted to cut down the original bracket and bend it to fit the case properly. This does somewhat wreck the resale value of this card, but I don't plan on upgrading anytime soon, so I'm happy with this solution. After a bit of tweaking, I was able to get the card to fit into the system perfectly, and now this PC should be ready to be closed up and set up for recording. I installed Windows 10 onto this system, and honestly, I might even switch it over to Linux at some point, assuming there won't be any issues with the NVIDIA GPU or Elgato card. Linux people, let me know what I should do to have as few problems as possible with this hardware if I do switch. In any case, I went with Windows 10 for now because I want to use this system very soon for some projects and therefore don't have time to possibly finick with Linux yet. I then installed drivers and OBS and configured OBS's recording settings to record in 1080p at 60 FPS, encoded in H.265 at a constant bitrate of 60 megabit per second. One more thing I did was add a shortcut to OBS to the startup folder, which you can access by pressing Windows key plus R and then typing in shell:startup. This means that when I boot the system up and log in, OBS will be open and ready to go already, just a small convenience thing that I figured I'd do. And before everything went under the desk, I also added this HDMI switcher that I had into the setup. This will take the video output from this PC and the pass-through output from the capture card and allow me to switch between which one gets sent to the monitor. So now it'll be much easier to check on the recording PC and then go back to the PC that's running through the capture card while I'm working without having to deal with the annoying input switching buttons on the back of my monitor. The switcher got command stripped under my desk and the recording PC went under there too. So now my main HDMI test cable runs through the capture card and I can easily record any PC that I want so long as I can send its video through the HDMI cable with either native HDMI or an adapter. After testing the recording setup by recording some gameplay with a lot of foliage to stress out the encoder and test the video quality, I can safely say that I'm super pleased with what I'm seeing. The encoder had plenty of headroom to handle maybe even up to 1440p 60, but I don't think I'll ever be recording at that resolution, and the video quality after plugging everything in and not even configuring the capture card at all was superb. Of course, this system will be great for my screen recording use case, but with the performance I've seen, I'd imagine that you could even use this setup for some 1080p streaming if you wanted to start live streaming on a budget, which is awesome. Well, that's all that I have for you in today's video. I hope that you were able to at least enjoy it and maybe even learn a thing or two. In any case, I hope to see you next time. Goodbye.